Well, hello again, and happy 4th of July. This is an unexpected bonus round, bonus lesson. I don't know who will join. It's not going to be a very long live stream, but I was taking a walk and I finally understood why one viewer was saying the volume was low. And the irony, the funny thing, is that only one person was saying it was low. Everyone else gave me a thumbs up, and I had checked on my laptop that the sound was okay. And I only realized as I was taking my walk after lunch, I think I had the wrong microphone plugged in. So you could hear me, but you couldn't hear me clearly. I am going to do a quick check right now on the laptop again to see if that was the issue. So if anyone's joining me just for this unexpected surprise bonus, feel free to say hi and give me a thumbs up, and let's work together to make sure this time I'm giving you great audio. I see Hannah's here. Thank you. All right, let's do a tech check on my laptop. Yeah, it does. It looks fine. It was working before. It's just I had the volume probably too low. The wrong mic was also being used, and now I understand why the one person was saying your volume is low, but other people confirmed that they could hear me. They just needed to turn the volume up. So my deepest apologies. For the first time when I went live today, I did not realize that the wrong microphone was plugged in. So apologies. Yes, Abdelaziz Mustafa, I'm fine. I am live. It's a surprise live. I went live a few hours earlier, but I'm going to go live just for a little bit again. One, to apologize for the audio if people had difficulty hearing me earlier. And two, I wanted to confirm that indeed my mic does work. I just need to make sure that it was the correct one that was plugged in. So now we have people joining just for fun. Thank you, Fabio, for confirming that you can hear me clearly. So you can watch the first live stream. You just have to turn the volume up. It's clear enough, but it's low. And we went through a set of exercises that I prepared on synonyms. But since some of you are joining me right now, I will reward you and your curiosity, and we can do a little bit of practice together. How about that? Yeah? Hey, Romero. And I see, is it Christoph? Thank you so much for confirming. Okay, guys. So I'm glad to have a small group here to confirm that this time I got the audio right. You know what happened is sometimes in the morning, if I have a lesson or a live stream at 9, I don't have as much time as I normally do to do everything I love to do in the morning, which is to take a walk. And for me, taking a walk is time in nature, and it's time to gather my thoughts. Does anyone else do that? Thumbs up if you like nature. Thumbs up if you take a walk. For me, walking helps. It helps clear my mind, or it helps gather my thoughts. And I didn't take my morning walk. I was planning to take the walk after the live stream, but boy, now I know I paid the price because I didn't gather my thoughts properly. And so when I sat down, just by habit, I grabbed my headset and I put that on, because when I teach my lessons, private lessons or small group lessons, I usually put on the headset. But for live streams, I use my nice Yeti mic. But by habit, I just grabbed the headset and stuck that on, and that was the problem this morning. So I thought, let's start with synonyms to describe my state of mind because I missed something important. I did a tech check, but it wasn't the best tech check, obviously, right? I see Tahima joined us. Yes. We'll see now, Abdel Aziz Mustafa, you get the second bonus live stream. Fernando, I see you too. Okay, let me work my little magic and see if I can share my screen. Let's see if I can do that correctly. Okay, can you see? I'll push this down a little. I can go bigger too. Oh, so apologies. I hope you'll still be able to benefit from the main live stream. I went through and we practiced synonyms, words and phrases, some writing tasks and speaking tasks. But let's use a bonus round to introduce some new vocabulary. So all get something out of this. I'd like to make sure you have good takeaway from both live streams, and this one will be at a better volume. Okay? All right, love. And I'll do some Q&A at the end, okay? All right, so what happened this morning is that I did most of my morning routine, but I didn't have time to take my walk. And when I take my walk, I'm able to gather my thoughts and mentally prepare better for the day. I didn't do that, and yes, that's why I was a little distracted, right? So when you're distracted, you're not fully focused, right? Not fully focused, or you're not paying attention fully, not paying full attention. Distracted. I was a little distracted, slightly distracted, not completely distracted, but a little distracted. And what happened was I was a little absent-minded. There's a synonym, right? So if I'm distracted, I'm also a little absent-minded, meaning my mind was absent to a certain degree. It wasn't fully present. So I was a little absent-minded in doing my tech check, and I was checking the wrong microphone. I had the wrong microphone set up, and that's why we had low volume. But only one person commented on the low volume. Everyone else gave me a thumbs up. That's why I thought everything was fine. But I was absent-minded. Another synonym. Synonym. It's not an easy word to spell, right? When might you be absent-minded? Again, when you have a lot of things to take care of, a lot of details, or if you're focused on a certain issue, that's taking most of your attention. And in other areas of your life, you might be absent-minded, perhaps. Some people are absent-minded by nature. You might see that they don't always fully focus on the task at hand. Have you seen that? Okay, so we're looking at synonyms for distracted. One of them is absent-minded, and yet another is on autopilot, right? You can be on autopilot, or you can go on autopilot. This is fairly common when people drive, especially to the same places. How many of you drive? Do you drive? Or sometimes it happens walking too. You go to the same places and you're not fully paying attention because you always go the same way. And perhaps a minute or so passes and you realize, ooh, look where I am. Because you do this so often, it becomes so familiar. And you just take the steps walking, or you drive your car on autopilot. You're not paying attention. Sometimes we do certain tasks on autopilot. So again, doing tech checks, I usually pay attention, but obviously this morning I was on autopilot setting up for the live stream, and I didn't fully pay attention as I was doing my tech check. I was on autopilot. So yet another synonym. If these are new expressions, what resources can you turn to for more examples, more explanation? Distracted, absent-minded, autopilot. I've shared some of my favorite dictionaries in the past, so let's look at again at just a few learner dictionaries that I think are worth bookmarking. The first one is Longman Dictionary. How many of you know this one? Do you use it? I like it because you can get British and American models for pronunciation. They also give you some good examples. So for example, Granddad's been getting rather absent-minded lately. So we often associate absent-mindedness with aging, which also makes me sad because I'm thinking, is it because I'm aging? I'm getting old. I was absent-minded today. I did my tech check absent-mindedly, so that was not good. Scatterbrained. I hope that's not an adjective to describe me on a regular basis. I think I'm fairly focused. So the antonym here is focused, present, right? But in this case, I think I was a little absent-minded, a little distracted, right? This is the Britannica Dictionary, also a good learner's dictionary, a good learner resource. They'll also show you if there's another word in the word family, distractedly as the adverb, and with some examples, right? And look, the synonym they put in there in brackets is absent-mindedly. So you know they're the same in meaning or similar in meaning. This one is Cambridge, another good learner's dictionary. This is the expression on autopilot, technically automatic, right? Automatic pilot, autopilot. So in this example, somebody's working on autopilot. Perhaps they know their job and their duties so well that they just do it almost with their eyes closed, which could be dangerous depending on the line of work that you're in, right? So it can be dangerous when we go on autopilot or do things on autopilot. We don't want to be absent-minded as we go through our tasks. It can be harmful and risky to be distracted in our work. So again, apologies for this morning. I was slightly distracted and used the wrong microphone. Perhaps you can give me your examples now. What have you done recently or at some point when you were distracted, and what happened? I was distracted and I used the wrong microphone this morning. I was a little absent-minded, and I was absent-minded during my tech check. And unfortunately, I went through my checklist on autopilot, and that led me to using the wrong mic. So let me know. What are your examples, guys? Mary Poppins, I haven't seen you in a while. I always know you by your wonderful username. Yes. Okay. See somebody showing a heart for Longman. Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English. I like it because it has both British and American pronunciation, and it will also indicate if something is mostly British or mostly American, so that you can be aware if you're going to interact with people who are mostly in North America or from North America, or have spent their time learning American English or Canadian English. You want to be sensitive to that. Likewise, if you're in Europe and doing most of your work or social interaction with people who've studied British English, you need to be aware of which idioms or expressions or pronunciation patterns are British or American, just to have that sensitivity. I like Longman for that reason. Okay, so any examples? When were you distracted, absent-minded, or have you ever been on autopilot, driving or walking or doing some kind of task? Maybe you're distracted during breakfast. Have you ever put salt instead of sugar in some kind of dish or beverage? Have you ever put the milk in the wrong place, not the refrigerator? Sometimes in the morning when we're not fully awake, we can be absent-minded and distracted, and we make silly mistakes. Has that happened to you? I do have Instagram. Fabio says, I'm always absent-minded. Well, hopefully you can be a little more focused. You're being focused now because you're paying attention to the vocabulary, right? Yes, I have Instagram. Just find me, guys, English with Jennifer Lebedev, and just go to my homepage on YouTube and you'll see all the links there. Okay? Thank you. Espiro said, happy 4th of July, and you're back for the bonus round. Okay. Okay, so there is your bonus: distracted, absent-minded, and autopilot. Also, at the end of the previous live stream, we were rushing a bit because I was already over the hour. So right now, I'll give you a little bit of bonus practice with the idioms that we had earlier. Okay, let me review first. Some of you were here, a lot of you weren't. So there were 4 idioms that I presented in honor of July 4th, Independence Day. I was thinking of concepts of independence and freedom, right? We want freedom, we want independence. Those are 2 synonyms as well. And there are sometimes idioms that can nicely substitute a single word, and that's your choice. Do you want to go for that single word, or would you like to use a colorful expression? And one piece of advice I gave is to use idioms when you want to color your speech. At the same time, don't load too much into whatever you're saying or writing. There is a point of where you use too many idioms and it doesn't sound natural, so be careful. Also be sensitive to the tone you're going for. Do you want something more formal and academic and professional? Do you want something more conversational, right? Your choice. So you want to be aware of who your audience is and how you want to sound, either as you speak or as you write. Okay? Oh, yes, Fernando. When we're absent-minded, we forget stuff, we lose stuff. You can't remember where your phone is. I've done that, right? Thumbs up if you agree with that. Or if you experienced absent-mindedness and you get distracted, you can't remember where you put your phone down. All right, so the 4 idioms we looked at earlier are march to the beat of your own drum, stand on your own 2 feet, call the shots, and spread your wings. And members of my channel now have access to a short quiz on the community tab. After each live stream, I always create follow-up tasks. There is a short quiz with 11 questions, multiple choice, and then there's a short writing task that members can do and get my feedback. So if that sounds interesting and you're not a member, you can click join and try that, okay? Yes, I see more praise for the Longman Dictionary, right? Okay. Yes. I see an idiom, Mustafa. Blaze a trail. Not necessarily associated with freedom, but being out there and doing something successful and unique, perhaps. Blazing a trail. You're a leader and you're doing something successfully. People are taking notice of it if you're blazing a trail. Okay. So these were the examples from earlier this morning. Mark has always had a strong sense of self and marches to the beat of his own drum, meaning he does things his own way. You could also say he doesn't follow the crowd. So you see that synonyms or synonymous expressions can play in here and help us create some variety. Idioms sometimes very nicely capture not just even what we want to say, but how we want to say it. Right? He marches to the beat of his own drum. Everybody else is following the same beat, and he's off doing his own thing, right? Sheila wished to prove she could stand on her own 2 feet, meaning she wanted to prove she could be fully independent, right? Making her own decisions and also be financially independent. When you stand on your own 2 feet, you are independent and you are not dependent on other people like your parents or your family for financial support. Stand on your own 2 feet. Okay? And 3, it was clear that Neil enjoyed calling the shots. He enjoyed making decisions for the group. He enjoyed being the decision maker. All different ways to express the same idea. Call the shots. And finally, Olivia wanted to spread her wings, meaning she wanted to become more independent and explore the world. Okay? Again, say them aloud so you internalize them better, okay? March to the beat of one's own drum. March to the beat of one's own drum. Stand on one's own 2 feet. Stand on one's own 2 feet. Call the shots. Call the shots. Spread one's wings. Spread one's wings. So here are my questions, and we'll finish with this, and I'm going to let you tell me some of your thoughts in response to my questions. I'm curious. Can you think of a time when you wanted to spread your wings and try something new? Or when did you want to spread your wings? A little bit. Spread your wings. I wanted to spread my wings after college and before grad school. I actually just wanted something completely different. That's when I joined the cruise line industry for a little while. I wanted to escape academia, but also get out of my hometown and just experience something different and spread my wings and explore the world. So I worked on a ship that took me down to the Bahamas. Then I worked on another boat that took me up and down the Mississippi River. It was a time when I felt like spreading my wings and trying new things. Okay. Edo Ajha, thank you. From Gaza. Well, thank you so much, and I hope you're well and safe. Thank you for joining us. True growth when we forget our own destinies instead of waiting for them to unfold. Oh my gosh, those are such wise words, what Mustafa wrote. The true growth begins when we forge our own destinies instead of waiting for them to unfold. That's beautiful. Right? Spread your wings. There's a similar quote I have. I can't remember it word for word, but it's about there being 2 types of people in the world. There are those who wait for events to happen, right? And there are those who create the events. So do you wait for things to happen and see how things unfold, or do you decide to create the events and create the life that you want, right? I always like that idea, that if you're going to spread your wings and seek what you want, create what you want, right? That's nice. No examples? When did you want to spread your wings? I guess even leaving home to go off to college, you feel like you're spreading your wings when you go off to college or off to university. But for me, in the US, remember, college is 4 years. So I was in college from age 18 to about 22. And then grad school can start either immediately after, or you can take some time off. So I had a couple years between undergraduate work and graduate work. So after college, I wanted to spread my wings and explore the world. In your opinion, what qualities does someone need to call the shots effectively at work or in a group? And do you enjoy calling the shots? Do you enjoy calling the shots? Some people don't want that responsibility, right? Do you enjoy making decisions for the group? Sometimes calling the shots could sound a little negative, like somebody who likes to give orders. There are times and certain situations where you expect someone to make those decisions because of their title, their authority. But there are other times when it's just their personality. Somebody sort of takes over and wants to control the situation, and they want to call the shots. But again, it's not necessarily negative, right? You want a good leader in a business or an office setting, someone to lead the group. What qualities does someone need to call the shots effectively? What do you think? Yeah, and it's cultural, talking about spreading your wings and being independent. It can differ not only from culture to culture, country to country, but also family to family. Here in the States, it's also true. There are some people who are ready to be on their own at 18. There's some people who will not really be fully financially independent until 25 or later, especially if they're continuing their studies, right? So, and I think more and more it has become acceptable for older children to stay at home because the cost of living is so high. It is not very easy to afford a house, for example. And depending on where you live, rent for an apartment can be very high. So unless you have a roommate or a couple of roommates to share the rent, it can be hard to get out there and stand on your own 2 feet and spread your wings, right? But you'll have to seek other opportunities to do that. Even if you are at home with your family, you can still start learning some more independence, right? Yes, that's interesting. Mary Poppins is talking about a nation or a people learning to spread their wings. Certainly that could happen, right? Especially, I'm thinking of, I don't want to get too much into politics, but think about any kind of situation where another country has had strong influence or even control or power over another. It could have been a colonial situation. And once that smaller country gains its independence, they learn to spread their wings, right? As a people, you learn to spread your wings and stand on your own 2 feet. Yes. So when we talk about freedom and independence, it can be personal and individual, 2 synonyms, personal, individual, or it can be about a nation, a country, a people, more synonyms, a nation, a country, a people. Good synonyms there. Okay. Yes. I think there's already been plenty of instances where Ukraine has spread its wings, but it's just the current circumstances, of course, are troubling. But happy to have you here. Okay. I think, and you can agree or disagree, come on guys, list some qualities. When someone's calling the shots, what kind of person is that? Now we'll go for antonyms. What's the opposite of shy? What's the opposite of modest? What's the opposite of doubtful? Someone who calls the shots makes the decisions. What qualities do you associate with a decision maker? Any ideas? Right? I don't think we usually think of shy leaders or hesitant leaders or doubtful leaders. What qualities do you associate with someone who calls the shots at work or in a group? Uninhibited. Ooh, that's a nice word. Uninhibited, right? Confident. How about that one? If you're confident, you're uninhibited. Nothing's holding you back. Synonyms for confident can be certain. Okay. Maybe you know somebody who's good at calling the shots, or who enjoys calling the shots. If you don't do it, do you know someone who does do it and they enjoy calling the shots? Or maybe it is something that you would like to try in the future, in a future job position, right? In what sense, Fabio, stick? I'm not sure what that would refer to. If they stick to their decisions, right? Certain, committed, dedicated, perhaps. I think people who make a decision and stick to their decisions are confident, right? They're confident. It could be negative if they realize that they didn't make the best decision, then still sticking to things, sticking to their beliefs, sticking to their ways would suggest that they are stubborn, which is a negative quality, right? Confident, oh yes. And going to an extreme would be like a dictator, right? Dictators obviously want to call the shots. But again, calling the shots isn't necessarily negative, right? We need managers to lead a group and call the shots. We need captains on sports teams to call the shots, right? So we do need leaders. We need coaches to lead sports teams and they call the shots. We need people to lead with confidence, with certainty. Okay. Self-assurance. Yes. Yes, those are the good things. Okay. And 3, do you know someone who marches to the beat of their own drum? Do they seem happy? Right? There are those people who follow trends, follow the crowd. They sort of like to fit in and blend in. It's just comfortable for them to do that. Then there are those who feel like that's not my path. I don't want to do what everyone else is doing, right? So they march to the beat of their own drum. Do you know anyone like that? It could be an artist, especially because they're creative. It could be someone in business, right? They don't want to work for a company. They don't like doing everything according to a company policy. They want to create their own work environment and create their own schedule, their own policies for themselves, their own standards. So those who do well in a company setting, an office setting, and there are those who perhaps would like to be working independently because they march to the beat of their own drum. March to the beat of your own drum. If you're watching the recording, feel free to answer these questions in the comments, right? Do you know someone who marches to the beat of their own drum? And do they seem happy? There's a question. Some people follow the crowd and they're happy fitting in. There are other people who are happier because they don't follow the crowd. Or maybe they march to the beat of their own drum, but they feel outside of most of the social circles there, maybe not included. So there could be good and bad when you march to the beat of your own drum, right? You kind of want to fit in, but still do things on your own, do things in your own way. Okay, march to the beat of your own drum. I'm trying to think. I guess in some ways I like to see what other people are doing, but I also definitely feel I have marched to the beat of my own drum sometimes in what I do. I don't always follow a trend. I want to do things my way and what feels good to me, right? When I work independently, it means I get to call the shots for myself. No one's telling me what I have to do. I get to make those decisions. Do you enjoy that kind of situation as well? And the last question, what challenges do people often face when they first try to stand on their own 2 feet? Think about that, whether you've done it or you can see yourself doing this in the near future or a few years out from now, right? Imagining when you leave your home to be independent, you're going to live independently, provide for yourself, right? Make your own dinners, take care of yourself, not rely on anyone else, and you stand on your own 2 feet. There's some challenges. Everybody goes through them. What are those challenges? When you first get out on your own and you're trying to stand on your own 2 feet, what challenges does a person face? I agree. Abdelaziz Mustafa says financial struggles, right? And also as you try to figure out how to make a living, to pay all of your expenses or to start earning enough money to buy things that you want, not necessarily need, you also have to learn how to budget all your money, right? You don't want to be spending everything. If you can try to save some money, that's even better, right? But the first goal is to try to earn enough so that you can make a living and pay for all of your expenses, right? You want to stand on your own 2 feet and be financially independent. It takes some time to get there for most of us, right? Which is okay. Do you agree with Mustafa? Mustafa is saying money is everything. Well, it's sure a big thing, right? It's important. No one's going to argue otherwise. But is it everything? We could discuss that. Adventure. I think that's what you stand to gain, right? When you spread your wings and stand on your own 2 feet, you can have an adventure. But some people are overwhelmed by the adventure, right? Too much freedom, too many choices. Financial struggles, yes, but I also think when you stand on your own 2 feet and you're out there, you have this sense, you could have a sense of loneliness, right? If you've always been in your home with family members around, the first time you're out there in your own apartment, for example, it's kind of exciting, but there can also be moments where, wow, it's really quiet, or you want to talk to somebody and there's no one there in the kitchen to talk to unless you call or text somebody, right? So I think loneliness could be a challenge when you first get out there. You want to spread your wings and stand on your own 2 feet, but it also could possibly be lonely at times, right? And if you're standing on your own 2 feet in a new place, in a new city, you are challenged to orient yourself, find out where everything is and how things work. So I can see a number of challenges depending on where exactly you're trying to settle and build a life. Time, responsibility, yes, managing everything, managing time, managing your finances, managing all the things that you are responsible for now, because no one's doing your laundry, no one's cleaning your house, right? No one's making doctor's appointments. You have to do all of that when you're standing on your own 2 feet. When you need answers, you need to make the call. You need to do research online, right? Standing on your own 2 feet is taking responsibility. Okay. All right. You have 4 wonderful questions to think about. You can put answers in the comments. You could also use any of these questions for discussion practice. If you have somebody to speak English with, practice talking about these kinds of questions. Again, I'll say the idioms once more. Spread your wings, call the shots, march to the beat of your own drum, and stand on your own 2 feet. Okay, so we looked at idioms, and these are all basically different ways to say to become independent, to live with freedom and independence. In this case, personal and individual freedom, right? When you want to spread your wings, you want to get out there, be independent, and explore. If you're independent of others, you get to call the shots for yourself and possibly for the group. March to the beat of your own drum, right? Not following the crowd. You're independent of them. You have the freedom to do things your way. And stand on your own 2 feet is mostly about being financially independent, but again, it's about not relying on other people. You're fully independent and can just rely on yourself to get things done. Okay? All right, we're going to wind down. I will now allow any questions. We'll do a quick Q&A, and then I'm going to end it because this was our bonus live stream. With the proper mic. Again, apologies for those who tuned in to the first time who were straining to hear me. But next time, if more than one person says there's an issue, I would take more time to investigate. But since everyone was giving me a thumbs up earlier, I just assumed, okay, things are working. But please let me know. Hopefully in the future, I will not be so distracted during my tech check before I go live. Do you remember the synonyms I gave at the beginning of this bonus live stream? I was a little distracted. I was a little absent-minded, right? And I was probably on autopilot when I was checking my equipment. I'm glad, Mary Poppins. Okay, practice using them. Write your examples. We also looked at some good learner dictionaries. Some of you know Longman. Now all of you have seen Longman Dictionary. I also like Britannica, Collins, Cambridge. Those are also good learners dictionaries. Learners dictionaries are very helpful, not just to hear pronunciation, but you see examples. Pay attention to the grammar. How are these words and expressions used, right? Okay, guys, be winding down. Thank you for joining me. Apologies again for my absent-mindedness this morning, but I'm glad that we were able to do 2 rounds today. I wish you all a wonderful weekend, happy July, and stay safe no matter where you are. I'm thinking of all of you, and I'm wishing you and your families well, and I hope everyone has the freedom to have a beautiful weekend, beautiful, safe weekend, okay? Take care, everybody.